Sarah Everard was born in 1987 in Surrey, a county located in the southeast of England. She spent her childhood in Haslington area of York City, also in England, where her family still lives. Her father Jeremy is a teacher, and her mother Sue works for a charity. Sarah was the youngest in the family, having two older brothers. While still in York, Sarah attended Fulford School. Steve Lewis, director of the school, said both Sarah and her family and friends were a valued part of the community, and described her as bright, cheerful, and caring. After graduating from high school in 2005, she attended Durham University, where she majored in geography. Stuart Corbridge, vice-chancellor of the university where Sarah graduated, said she was a cheerful, popular person with many friends. After graduating in 2008, Sarah moved to London and started working in marketing and public relations, where she found success thanks to her network of colleagues and sharp intelligence, according to her friends. According to close people, Sarah went through a difficult year in 2020. In addition to ending a long-term relationship, she also lost her job after the company she worked for declared bankruptcy. Even so, Sarah would have been optimistic about the future, always worrying about her well-being and the well-being of her friends. During the global crisis, she dabbled in online exercise classes and said she was looking forward to life after this was all over. Furthermore, Sarah started a new relationship and also got a new job. From then on, she was very excited, waiting for the opportunity to travel again and meet her family and friends in New York, her hometown. On the night of March 30, 2021, around 9 p.m., Sarah left a friend's house near a train station called Clapham Junction. She crossed the field and walked along the A205 road on her way home. While walking, Sarah called her boyfriend, and they talked for about 15 minutes and arranged to meet the next day. At 9:28 p.m., she was spotted by one of the Pointers highway security cameras. 4 minutes later, she was also recorded by the camera of a police car that passed by, and by the images of a bus that passed through the same route at 9:35. In these images, it's possible to see Sarah talking to a man. From then on, Sarah was not seen again. On March 4, Sarah's boyfriend contacted the police to ask them to investigate the disappearance, as she had failed to show up for their scheduled appointment and had not responded to his messages since then. After Sarah was officially reported missing, the police began the process of investigating the case. On March 9th, detectives arrested Wayne Cousins, a 48-year-old officer on the Metropolitan Police team. The arrest took place at his home and was preventive, on charges of kidnapping, but shortly afterwards he was released due to lack of evidence. Police officers even visited more than 750 houses in the vicinity in search of traces of the victim. They also reviewed numerous security cameras recordings and received more than 120 calls from citizens trying to help the case by providing leads. Several posters with Sarah's photo were pasted through the streets of London and shared on social media. Meanwhile, investigators were intensively searching for the locations where she had last been seen. After the incident, the police issued warnings for women to be careful and avoid walking in streets alone, especially at night. The searches for Sarah Everard began to intensify as the days passed. The police even searched a garage located on a cliff that belonged to Wayne Cousins, the main suspect in the case, but nothing relevant was found. On March 10, 2021, 7 days after Sarah Everard disappeared, police found the remains of a person stored in a large builder's bag in Hodes Wood Park, which forms part of the Kent Forest in southeast England. That same day, the police arrested Wayne Cousins, this time on charge of murder. But how did the police get to him? At 7 a.m. on March 3rd, Wayne ended his 12-hour shift at the U.S. Embassy in London where he worked. After hours, he traveled to Kent to pick up the car he had rented 3 days earlier on February 28. He then returned to London and began to drive the car around the city with the intention of finding a victim. He wanted to find a woman who was young and alone. The plan was for him to use his position as a police officer and approach and arrest his victim, claiming that she would be breaking lockdown rules. Wayne had worked on COVID patrols in January 2021 and would use the knowledge he acquired, in addition to his badge, of course. He arrived in Clapham at about 9:23 p.m. Sarah Everard left a friend's house a few minutes later. She was walking towards her house, which was in Brixton Hill. At 9:34 p.m., Wayne saw Sarah. He then parked his car and approached her. He identified himself as a police officer, showing his badge, and later claimed that she was breaking lockdown rules. Wayne then handcuffed Sarah and placed her in the vehicle he had rented. He then took the young woman to Kent, 100 kilometers from London. There, he traded in the car he had rented for his personal car, still with Sarah in tow. Afterwards, he took the young woman to a nearby rural area where he committed the crime. According to the police, the crime occurred between 11:53 p.m. and midnight 54 on March 4th, and Wayne used his belt to suffocate the victim. Apparently, the man had planned the crime at least a month before. He rented a car just to make the approach, bought a roll of carpet tape with the intention of not getting his personal vehicle dirty, and thus leaving no traces, and even reconnoitered the area where he would leave the victim's body. After he committed the crime, he still took some measures as a precaution. He returned the rental car, and then with his personal car he went to the town of Sandwich in Kent, where he threw Sarah's cell phone into a creek. Around 11 a.m. on March 4th, he stopped at a gas station and bought 5 liters of gasoline. Afterwards, he went to the place where he had left Sarah's body inside a refrigerator and poured all the gasoline, setting it on fire afterwards. With the body burned, he collected the remains, placing them in rubber bags and then dumping them in the nearby lake. Despite having planned everything and believing that he would never be caught, Wayne didn't count on the security cameras that filmed him approaching Sarah and his next steps. During his testimony, Wayne told the police that he kidnapped Sarah because of a debt he owed to an Eastern European gang. According to him, he had gone out with a prostitute and hadn't paid for the service. With that, this gang threatened him, saying that he would have to take another girl to them, otherwise they would end him and his family. He further said that he delivered Sarah to this gang alive and unharmed, and that the delivery location was on a road in Kent. And of course, after some investigation, the police discovered that this story was not true. In addition to him, a woman in her 30s was also arrested. She was at Wayne's house and was taken into custody on suspicion of having helped the criminal, but was eventually released without any formal charges. Wayne Cousins joined the Metropolitan Police in September 2018 and has been assigned to the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Branch, the sector that is responsible for protecting the country's government and its diplomatic facilities. Before Sarah's death, Wayne was already under investigation for an exposure deemed indecent at a fast food restaurant in South London. Following the case, the Metropolitan Police asked the Independent Office for Police Conduct, a non-departmental public body in England, which is responsible for overseeing the system for handling complaints made against police forces, should conduct an inquiry into police actions in Wayne's investigation of his exposure, as there was a suspicion that officers responsible wouldn't have acted appropriately in the course of the case. On March 11, Wayne was hospitalized for a few days due to a head injury sustained while in police custody. After recovery, he returned to the police station. Police said that the wound reportedly happened while he was alone in his cell with no one involved. The next day, March 12, Wayne suffered another head injury and was again hospitalized. That same day, he was formally charged with kidnapping and murder, following authorization from the British Attorney General's office. He appeared at Westminster's Magistrates Court on March 13 and was held in custody. The responsible authorities reported that Wayne Cousins was not on duty at the time of Sarah Everard's disappearance. The remains found by the police on March 10 were identified as Sarah's through her dental records. The police then redoubled their searches for the place where the body was found, in order to obtain more evidence of the crime. On March 14th, A total of 2.5 kilometers of the city was cordoned off by the police so that proper investigations could be carried out. On March 16th, the investigation team continued to comb the woods in Kent, and specialist divers were called in to search underwater in search of the victim's cell phone. Due to repercussions of the case, the Secretary of State of Home Affairs, Priti Patel, released a statement in which she said that every woman should feel safe to walk in the streets without fear of harassment or violence. She also announced that new laws were being considered to protect women from harassment in public, as well as other measures to ensure that harassment becomes a more serious crime. London Mayor Sadiq Khan said London streets were not safe enough for women and action had to be taken. Before police located the remains and identified them as Sarah's, family and friends held out hope that she might be alive. They had come together virtually to ask for information and help with the search for the girl. Upon hearing the news about the death and that a police officer had been arrested accused of the crime, the messages of hope turned into memorials, and the story increasingly took on national proportions. According to people close to her, this transformation of Sarah into a national symbol against violence against women complicated the feelings of mourning of family and friends a little. In the days that passed after the crime, Sarah's family stayed away from the media, maintaining a private mourning. In a statement released by police, the family's only public comment since the crime was that her parents and siblings would remember her as a bright and beautiful young woman. After Sarah's death, a series of vigils were organized across the country on March 13. However, the day before the vigils were to take place, a message was passed to all police chiefs ordering them to stop the meetings. The decision was motivated by the risk of contamination due to the global crisis, so the restriction of the agglomeration of people was to be maintained. The groups tried to talk about the decision, but the conversations were interrupted, and the police warned that the vigils would be considered illegal if they happened. The organizers appealed the decision, but the responsible court rejected the request and upheld the police decision. As a result, most of the vigils were cancelled and started to be held virtually via the internet. Some small meetings took place in the cities in the interior of the country and some places in London. Despite the restrictions, some gatherings still took place, where people paid tribute to Sarah and also protested the decision to impediment to vigils. 4 people ended up being arrested for crimes against public order and violation of restrictive measures. During the arrests, some police officers caused the outrage by destroying the ornamentation made by the guards. The action prompted several statements by authorities, some in favor of the police and others against. Driven by feelings of anger at what happened to Sarah, several women took to social media to share their experiences and demand that tougher measures be taken to combat violence against women. In the reports, there were cases of abuse, harassment, and aggression suffered on the streets of England. London Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick even gave the following statement. The news that a police officer had been arrested on suspicion of Sarah's murder has sent waves of shock and anger through the public across the city. I speak for all my colleagues when I say that we are absolutely shocked by this terrible news. Our job is to patrol the streets and protect people. The phone conversation with her boyfriend was Sarah's last known communication. Before, the police didn't know if Sarah had managed to get to her house that night or if she had been attacked on the way, which is what happened. On her Facebook page, Sarah posted photos of her travels and of London, the city she considered home in recent years. In July 2021, Wayne attended a London criminal court hearing via video conference. At that hearing, he pleaded guilty to the kidnapping, abuse, and murder of Sarah Everard. As early as September 30, 2021, Wayne Cousins was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Sarah's father even said he could never forgive Wayne for taking his daughter away. The young woman's mother even said she was tormented at the thought of what her daughter had to endure. She added that burning her daughter's body was the ultimate insult and that they would never be able to see her face and say goodbye. This was the story of Sarah Everard, a woman full of plans for the future, but whose life was terribly interrupted. Alright folks, that's it for today. Thanks for watching until the end, best wishes, and I see you next time.